In part one of Types of Power and Leadership Implications for Leading Change, I explored 5 types of power that surfaced during Crossroads Community Church's year-long direction-setting process. In this segment, I'll look at 4 additional sources of power: symbols, transparency, pain, and intimidation. And then I'll explore how leaders can moderate the use of these power sources for the overall benefit of the organization and its people. At Crossroads, worship style and staff were important symbols that reflected the church's identity. Worship style was especially powerful because it connected with people's personal identity, the way they preferred to communicate with God. Changes to either symbol meant that the church's shared sense of culture was also changing. This is in keeping with what Becker describes in Congregations in Conflict. She says that identity conflicts in congregations are conflicts over the power to symbolize different understandings of the congregation's identity and to institutionalize these understandings in very concrete ways. As the refocusing process unfolded, it became evident, at least in hindsight, that symbols can play an important unifying role. The fact that the lead pastor role and worship style were in transition at the same time heightened some people's anxiety over which perspective would guide the selection of future symbols. From a leadership perspective, it's important that we exercise caution when attempting to change organizational symbols and recognize their importance as beacons that communicate present and future organizational direction. Important symbols may also serve to rivet people's attention and rally them to action. They can also serve as flashpoints for conflict. Choosing new symbols can become the victor's prize for whoever wins the battle. Symbols are noticeable and often distract from actual shared values and the values of subgroups and individuals. As leaders, we need to negotiate the selection of symbols carefully to reflect the actual shared values of the organization without unduly diminishing the values of individuals and subgroups. Another type of power I noticed at Crossroads was transparency. I saw firsthand how transparency went a long way in minimizing tensions at the church. As you'll recall, during the second summit, the refocusing facilitator instructed participants to read Romans 12-15 and then to share with the rest of the group how God had spoken to them through the passage. This led to a time of public confession and reconciliation. It was a heartwarming time as people extended empathy and compassion. This really seemed to bring some participants closer together. Many within the official refocusing circles appreciated the increased transparency that the refocusing process mandated. For example, the church board established a board covenant which outlined how they would strive to be more transparent with the congregation. It helped to promote respect and trust. The lesson here, perhaps, is that it's possible for subgroups to experience greater connectedness via bridges of transparency. In addition, leadership transparency is a good organizational practice because it communicates that leaders value and trust others within the organization. This kind of trust helps pave the way for individuals and subgroups to live out their values without feeling intimidated. Organizational connectedness is important for organizational success, but it's not easy. A healthy connectedness between people and between subgroups within an organization requires intentional measures that foster ongoing and respectful sharing of perspectives. It was obvious that pain paralyzed some people at Crossroads. This pain was powerful. The church had gone through a major crisis as their long-standing lead pastor of 13 years had resigned in a controversial situation. Many people felt hurt. This pain contributed to some people's unwillingness to engage in the refocusing process. Some simply could not deal with more change, while others opted out of the process to protest the board's role in the lead pastor's resignation. In some cases, people's pain seemed to add to their feelings of intimidation. As leaders, we must recognize the paralyzing power of pain and seek to promote healing for the good of hurting individuals and the good of the organization. This ongoing process requires sensitive intervention as appropriate. People paralyzed by their pain are not going to contribute as they could to a direction-setting process. They're emotionally immobilized. This is one reason why it's important to consider direction setting as more of an ongoing process and not just a point-in-time event that some may not be able to participate in for a variety of reasons. As I continue to probe beneath the surface of Crossroads' direction-setting process, I saw another source of power: intimidation. Some traditionalists felt too intimidated to participate in refocusing. They either opted out of the process completely or tended to remain quiet during the official refocusing discussions. The pain associated with losing their leader and the fact that the progressives dominated all three privileged groups in the process seemed to contribute to this sense of intimidation. This is a good reminder that it's simply not enough to promote widespread participation in organizational direction setting. Leaders must recognize the politics of intimidation and take steps to minimize this intimidation by welcoming divergent contributions to the knowledge formation discussions. As noted earlier, this could take the form of organizing specific pulse groups that target marginalized individuals and subgroups, giving them a louder voice in the process. However, traditionalists were not the only ones who felt intimidated. Some women and youth also felt intimidated. As a result, some in those groups didn't think that they contributed much to the refocusing process or didn't believe their ideas carried much weight in the discussions. How might we as leaders address this kind of intimidation? We really need to uncover why people feel intimidated and take the necessary steps to address this intimidation. As with some of the other leadership implications, the equitable distribution of power may help to reduce these feelings of intimidation for some people. We may also want to consider offering training that helps those who feel intimidated to become more assertive so that they can claim the power that they have and that others may extend to them. This is not a blame the victim approach, but rather an acknowledgement that some people may require additional skills to claim the power that is rightfully theirs. The insights I've gleaned from my role in Crossroads' direction-setting process and subsequent in-depth research on the process have deeply impacted me as a leader. I've become much more aware of how organizational processes like direction setting continuously intersect with exercises of power. These acts of power have a profound influence on how these processes unfold. Today, I'm much more sensitive to organizational power dynamics. I have more skills in my toolbox for not only recognizing power dynamics, but also moderating the inappropriate uses of power and maximizing those that are helpful. I hope that my insights will be helpful to you as well, as you seek to use and help others use power in ways that facilitate interactions and processes that are of maximum benefit to the people and organizations you serve.